this is called violence. When Krishna was fighting with the Kaliya snake by dancing on his heads, Kaliya bit Krishna on the leg. At that time, Garuda became infuriated and began to murmur. Krishna is so powerful that simply by his thundering voice, the wives of Kaliya have had miscarriages. Because my Lord has been insulted by this snake, I wish to devour him immediately. But I cannot do so in the presence of my Lord, because he may become angry with me. This is an instance of eagerness to act in ecstatic love as a result of dishonor to Krishna. When Shishupal objected to the worship of Krishna in the Rajasuya arena at a sacrifice organized by Maharaj Yudhisthira, Sahadev, the younger brother of Arjuna, said, "A person who cannot tolerate the worship of Krishna is my enemy and is possessed of a demoniac nature. Therefore, I wish to strike my left foot upon his broad head, just to punish him more strongly than the wand of Yamaraj." Then Baladev began to lament like this, "O all auspiciousness to Lord Krishna, I am so surprised to see that the condemned descendants of the Kuru dynasty, who so unlawfully occupied the throne of the Kuru kingdom, are criticizing Krishna with diplomatic devices. Oh, this is intolerable. This is another instance of eagerness caused by dishonor to Krishna." Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 6. I'm going to read the verses from 32 to 38, and then we can do 38 together. So. Tato deva sura kritva samrita. No, Prabhu, I'm going to read them all myself till 38. Tato deva sura kritva samvidam krita sorda udyamam paramam chakrur amritarte parantapa. O Maharaj Parikshit, chastiser of enemies, the demigods and the demons thereafter made an armistice between them. Then, with great enterprise, they arranged to produce nectar as proposed by Lord Indra. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The word samvidam is significant in this verse. The demigods and demons both agreed to stop fighting, at least for the time being, and endeavored to produce nectar. Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur notes in this connection, Samvid yudhe patigyam achari namni toshani sambhasane kriyakare sanketa gyanayor api. The word samvit is variously used to mean in fighting, in promising, for satisfying, in addressing, by practical action, indication, and knowledge. Verse 33. Tatate mandaragarim ojasot patya durmada nadanta udadim ninyo shakta parigrabhava. Thereafter, with great strength, the demons and demigods, who were all very powerful and who had long stout arms, uprooted Mandara mountain. Crying very loudly, they brought it toward the ocean of milk. Durabharat vaha shranta shakra pairo chanadaya aparyayantas tam vodam vivasha vijahupati. Because of conveying the great mountain for a long distance, King Indra, Bali Maharaj, and the other demigods and demons became fatigued. Being unable to carry the mountain, they left it on the way. Nipatan sagiri tatra bahun amara danavan churnayan asamahata bharena kanakachala. The mountain known as Mandara, which was extremely heavy, being made of gold, fell and smashed many demigods and demons. By constitution, gold is heavier than stone. Since Mandara mountain was made of gold and was therefore heavier than stone, the demigods and demons could not properly carry it to the ocean of milk. Verse 36. Tams tatha bhagna manaso bhagna bahu rukandaran Vigyaya Bhagavamstatra Babuva Garuda Dhvajaha. The demigods and demons were frustrated and disheartened, and their arms, thighs, and shoulders were broken. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who knows everything, appeared there on the back of his carrier Garuda. Giripata vinispishtan vilokyama radhanavan ikshaya jivayam asa nirjaran nirvanam yatha. Observing that most of the demons and the demigods had been crushed by the falling of the mountain, the Lord glanced over them and brought them back to life. Thus they became free from grief, and they even had no bruises on their bodies. Verse 38. Girim charopya garude hastane kena lilaya aruya prayaya abdim surasura gunervitaha Garim charopya garude hastane kena lilaya aruya prayaya abdim surasura gunervitaha Garim charopya garude hastane kena lilaya aruya prayaya abdim surasura gunervitaha
Garim Charokya Garude, Asane Kena Lilaya, Aruya Pratyayam Abden, Sura Sura Ganevita, Girim Charokya Garude,
Hastane kena lilaya aruya prayaya abdim surasura gunervitaha Garim, the mountain. Cha, also. Arupya, placing. Garude, on the back of Garuda. Hastena, by the hand. Ekena, one. Lilaya, very easily as his pastime. Aruya, getting on. Parayo, he went. Abdim, to the ocean of milk. Sura Asura Gane, by the demigods and asuras. Vrittaha, surrounded. Translation. The Lord very easily lifted the mountain with one hand and placed it on the back of Garuda. Then he too got on the back of Garuda and went to the ocean of milk, surrounded by the demigods and demons. Please repeat. The Lord very easily lifted the mountain with one hand and placed it on the back of Garuda. Then he too got on the back of Garuda and went to the ocean of milk, surrounded by the demigods and demons. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Here is proof of the omnipotence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is above everyone. There are two classes of living entities, the demons and the demigods, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is above them both. The demons believe in the chance theory of creation, whereas the demigods believe in creation by the hand of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The omnipotence of the Supreme Lord is proved here, for simply with one hand he lifted Mandara mountain, the demigods and the demons placed them on the back of Garuda and brought them to the ocean of milk. Now the demigods, the devotees, would immediately accept this incident, knowing that the Lord can lift anything, however heavy it might be. But although demons were also carried along with the demigods, demons, upon hearing of this incident, would say that it is mythological. But if God is all-powerful, why would it be difficult for him to lift a mountain? Since he is floating innumerable planets with many hundreds and thousands of Mandara mountains, why can't he lift one of them with his hand? This is not mythology, but the difference between the believers and the faithless is that the devotees accept the incidents mentioned in the Vedic literatures to be true, whereas the demons simply argue and label all these historical incidents mythology. Demons would prefer to explain that everything happening in the cosmic manifestation takes place by chance, but demigods or devotees never consider anything to be by chance. Rather, they know that everything is an arrangement with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the difference between the demigods and the demons. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurimilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya-Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is the pastime of, or it's going to be the pastime of Samudra Manthan, which is like it's churning of the ocean of milk by the demigods and the demons. And it's interesting that I was thinking that this is like this lifting of the mountain by the Lord is like happens with Krishna as well. He lifts Giri Govardhan with his hand, you know. And it's interesting that Garuda must be so big that he could actually support the mountain and the Lord and all the demigods and demons all on the back of Garuda, taking it to the ocean of milk. You can't imagine how big Garuda must be. But that's the Lord's potency, and you know, it's amazing. And I was just thinking that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also says this in the 15th chapter. Krishna says that there are two classes of beings: there's the fallible and the infallible. And in the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is infallible. And then Krishna says in the next verse that superior to these two, there is the greatest personality called Paramatma, the Supreme Soul, and he's entered these worlds and he's maintaining them. So we can see that here, that none of the demigods or demons could actually even lift the mountain, never mind anything else, they couldn't do that. So, and the only person who could was the Lord. So the position of supporting and protecting the universe is actually, it can't be done by conditioned souls, because, or even liberated souls. Because here Krishna is referring to, when he says the fallible, he's talking about conditioned souls. When he's talking about infallible, then he's talking about liberated souls. But Krishna is beyond the fallible and the infallible, so he's greater than the conditioned souls and the liberated souls. And Krishna himself says that because I'm transcendental, superior to both the fallible and the infallible, and because I'm the greatest, I'm celebrated both in this world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person. And whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is a knower of everything. He engages in devotional service with me, unto me in all respects. So this is Krishna saying that actually the Paramatma is superior to both the fallible and the infallible. And I'm that Paramatma, I'm that personality who's transcendental to both the fallible and the infallible. So Krishna is supporting everyone, the demons and the demigods. And if you can see here, I was just thinking that the demigods and the demons, you know, were crushed under this mountain. So the Lord could have just saved the demigods. He could have just left the demons to die under the mountain. you know. He didn't have to make them survive, you know. But that's the Lord's kindness, that even the demons, he supports the demons. He even actually lets them, gives them life, you know, and supports them. So although they don't believe in him, and although they don't want to abide by his orders, still the Lord is supporting them and maintaining them. And this is actually the nature of the Lord. He's so kind that he's, even although they may not believe him and they have no faith, then still the Lord is kind enough to still look after their maintenance. They still are fed, they still have life, they still have air to breathe. So although there's so much difference between the demigods and the demons, and we can see from this pastime that although the Lord wanted the cooperation between the demigods and the demons, he still was wanting the demigods to get the nectar. So it's a very interesting pastime. Actually, there's many levels to this pastime. I was reading that there's also a deeper meaning in this pastime that in the previous acharyas explained that it's describing the soul's journey, that this ocean of milk symbolizes the soul's journey. And or actually it's the mind. The ocean is like the mind, and it's churned through devotional service or bhakti, so this churning of the ocean of milk is representing actually the churning of bhakti. It's like and the lordship, the devas and the asuras is like, you know, within us we've also got demonic tendencies, we've got divine tendencies. So this is actually this constant battle between the lower self and the higher self. And so so basically the ocean of milk is like our mind, and it's full of like all these different hidden desires and impurities, and also potential, you know, divine treasures, because we can attain so much nectar. So and the devas and the asuras, it's all like the divine and demoniac qualities within everyone, within all of us. So the divine qualities is like this purity, this devotion that we all have, and the demoniac qualities is this lust, anger, and greed. But working together, the demonic and divine, they're guided by Vishnu and to achieve a higher goal. So we all have these tendencies within us. So it's actually, we need to somehow or another cooperate to actually perform bhakti, so that we can actually get the nectar to come out, you know. And it's described that the Mandara mountain is like the difficult practice, all the effort, all the difficult practice of the pasya, the penance that we perform, the austerity we perform while we're performing bhakti. And also like the churning is like the deep contemplation, like it's like the process of self-realization. Yeah, and Vasuki is described that it's like the prana, the life force that's enduring all this pain, all this struggle, you know, trying to churn this ocean, the churning process. And what actually gets produced first is the hala poison. So it's interesting, isn't it? The poison gets produced first when the churning of the ocean takes place. And that is, it's like it represents the challenges and the suffering that we endure to actually produce the positive effect. So in the very beginning, all the anarthas are going to come out, isn't it? Like when we start the process of bhakti, we'll be faced with all the challenges of our anarthas, all the attachments, and so many different things in the heart, and all these anarthas are threatening our bhakti. You know, they come out And then we're faced with all these anarthas, and we're trying to practice bhakti. But it's like poison, isn't it? All these anarthas that come out. And ultimately, Lord Shiva is considered Vaishnava Yatashambhu, and he drinks the poison. So he's like, it's like the disciplined mind. He's representing like the disciplined mind that's able to withstand challenges. So it's like Lord Shiva is like the greatest devotee, and in order to save humanity, he drank the poison. And so this is actually like, I mean, the obstacles are necessary so that we can develop some, strong resolve, and it's to test our patience, our perseverance, but we have to go through that stage of anartha nivritti. All the anarthas are going to come out. It's like the poison coming out of the ocean. And then we have then after that, all the treasures start coming out. So once all the poison comes out, then all the treasures start coming out. And it's described as 14 treasures that come out of the ocean of milk, when they're churning it. And so these are like all the divine qualities and powers through our spiritual journey. So Lakshmi comes out, fortune. The Kamadhenu cow comes out, which is wish fulfilling. Airavata is considered like the pure consciousness. Kalpavriksha is the fulfilling of desires. And finally, Amrita, so the nectar eventually comes at the end. So the nectar is actually the nectar of spiritual love of God. So that's actually what we're aiming at. We're aiming to churn this ocean of bhakti to get the ultimate nectar, which is the Amrita. The ocean is there with all these different things, and we're trying to aim, finally the churning should bring out the nectar, which is the ultimate goal. We want pure eternal love for Krishna, isn't it? And this is actually the core of this message, is that spiritual progress isn't easy. As we can see, this whole pastime of the churning of the ocean, there's so many obstacles. First of all, they can't even lift the mountain, and they get crushed. And then the Lord comes and helps them, lifts the mountain. And then they can't churn the ocean because it's sinking into the ocean. So then the Lord appears again as Kurma to support the churning rod. So it is so many times the Lord appears in this pastime to help the churning of the ocean. And then eventually, even when they get the nectar, then they lose the nectar because the demons take it. So then the Lord appears again as Mohini. So like 3 incarnations in this one pastime, the Lord appears. That's right. So it involves this story really teaches us that, spiritual progress isn't easy. It involves facing our anarthas, our inner darkness, and purifying ourselves through real effort, dedicated effort, and patience and surrendering to Krishna's will. And then this will help us to discover who we actually are, our real eternal self. And it's very interesting that even it teaches us that even if there is, if we want this to happen, then there has to be teamwork is necessary, because the demigods and demons, they had to cooperate to get for a higher purpose, to get for the higher goal. Then they had to get cooperate and churn the ocean. And even although they had other desires to steal the nectar, still because they cooperated, they got somehow the nectar was produced. So it's important that we need to, within ourselves actually, this demonic and divine qualities are there as well. So there needs to be some sort of teamwork to churn the ocean of bhakti somehow or another. We have to, needs to be some sort of a balance so that we can actually progress in our spiritual life. And it's a very, very interesting pastime. There's so many deeper meanings that we can get out of this pastime. Is there any questions or comments?
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. The analogy, that was very nice. Where was it from?
It's from previous acharyas. I looked up deeper meaning. And then I got this that says like ISKCON accepts this sort of.
It's very nice. I was reflecting on when all the stuff was coming out as well, because if I remember in the past time, the demons got distracted and they started trying to get all the stuff, but they had to keep working till the nectar came. So it was just making me think of, I think it's Taranga Ranjani, right? Is that the right one? Where we get these facilities in devotional service. So we have to like be careful of that as well, right? All these things are coming out and we're getting distracted from the goal. We think that this is actually what's coming out. So was that there, or was it just?
That wasn't there, but if I go deeper, I'll probably find something like that, because so many different things came out, and some of the demons wanted this and this, they wanted this, you know. But another thing that came out was the Surabi cow was the next thing that came out after the poison, and it's saying that the Brahmanas and sages took the cow, and it's saying that the cow is so beneficial for humanity that the milk producing the ghee, the cow urine, the dung, it's all useful for sacrifices by the Brahmanas. So that's actually so important, the Surabi cow. So the sages took that because that's useful for sacrifice, for beneficial. But the demons wanted all the other things, you know, that they wanted to enjoy. So it's interesting, the personalities that took those different things. And like the goddess of fortune comes out, and there's so many personalities there, and some of them are really knowledgeable, but they're deficient in something. Some of them, so there's so many descriptions of all the different personalities. But Lord Vishnu is the greatest there, so Lakshmi takes Lord Vishnu as her husband. So it's very interesting.
In the Bible, Srila Prabhupada refers to the demons. They don't believe, they think it's all mythology, and they prefer the theory of chance to the theory of creation. But the thing was, the demons were there looking at, you know, they couldn't say that was mythology. At least those ones couldn't, because they saw him lift it. And they must have seen that he was a lot more powerful than all of them put together. So why didn't they come to the conclusion that he must be the Supreme Lord?
But their descendants probably didn't see it. So the descendants of those demons.
I know, but those ones right there and then must have, and then they got brought back to life as well. I mean, you would have made them think that they would have started chanting Hare Krishna after that.
Well, because their demoniac mentality. The demoniac mentality is there. So even although they see things, like Duryodhana seen Krishna, he didn't accept him as the Supreme Lord today. There's so many demons that were there, and Krishna was personally present, and still they didn't accept, because they've got a demonic mentality, and they don't accept, they don't want to believe. So, Shishikodantai Mai Pashishiki Jaya. So they are doubting. They're doubting the Shastras. They don't accept the sadhus. They don't accept, you know, what the Vedas say. So that's demoniac, isn't it? Because it's saying here that the difference between the believers and the faithless is that the devotees accept the incidents mentioned in the Vedic literatures as to be true, whereas the demons simply argue and label all these historical incidents mythology. So
I'm just trying to get my head around how you could see that happen and still not think. I mean, even if they just thought the Lord was a demon, they would have still thought he was the strongest one, because that's how they generally categorize people, isn't it, by the strongest one?
Well, they're just distracted by trying to get the nectar of immortality, you see, so they're not interested whether this Lord is supreme or not. They're not really interested in that. They're not interested to surrender. They just want to use that whole churning thing to get the nectar for themselves and become immortal. So they weren't really interested in surrendering and becoming the demigod like the demigods. But this is the situation with demoniac personalities. They don't accept. And even although there's so many shastras to explain things, and there's so many things that is quite logical as well, so many things that, how can things just happen by chance? They're still not wanting to accept. I don't know if you got a hand up. Oh, wait. I wasn't sure if you had the hand.
Just whilst we're on the subject of demons, well, the first thing is Hiranyakashipu was a demon, but he was worshipping Lord Brahma. He accepted that he just didn't accept that Vishnu was supreme, right?
Or he thought he was supreme.
He wanted to be supreme as well, right? Anyway, I had a question as well. So I was thinking, sometimes the demons they do something, or they have they do something that helps the devotees in some way, you know, like maybe get past some hurdle or go through something. And then it can seem like the demons are actually like some kind of agents of the Lord, like they're doing something to fulfill a purpose. I'm just wondering, would they still be demons like that? Or we could even think about something like recently, if we're on the Sankirtan and there's someone that gives us a really hard time, we think, well, that's such a demon. But actually it helps us realize we've got some anartha, or, you know, something's going on in our mind that shouldn't be there. So would that person really be a demon, or is it just like just Krishna's acting through this person?
Well, there's always, like Prabhupada says, there's always two classes of beings. There's the demons and the demoniac. The demigods and the demons. And so it's from the very beginning of creation, right from the very beginning, there's the demons and there's demigods. And it's like everyone's got a choice to either become a demigod or a demon. You know, we all have a choice. We all have a independence to choose. Krishna doesn't force us all to become divine beings, you know. So depending on our desires and our mentality, either we are, you know, demoniac or divine. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, there's divine nature and there's demoniac nature. And, you know, we may not be completely divine and we may not be completely demoniac. We may have like in between, you know, a grey area where we've got both. And most people have got both. So we're trying to increase the divine qualities and to reduce the demonic qualities. So we have to see what are the demonic qualities and to reduce them and increase the divine qualities. So.
Prabhupada said that nowadays most people are innocent. That it's not so easy to find real demons. Most people are just innocent, and they may change. They may, you know, become behave like a demon, but later on, and so many devotees that they were like, when you met them on the street first time, they were quite against Krishna consciousness and everything that was religious. But then they become devotees. So it's very difficult to tell nowadays. Before was more clear who is a demon, who was a devotee. There were Rakshasas, there were totally demoniac entities that they were against the Brahminical culture. But nowadays it's very difficult. And also the demon, like Mataji said, demon and devotee, they live in the same person. So it's very difficult. It's just like Prabhupada Prana was saying yesterday, is the one you feed is the one that becomes more prominent. But most people are innocent, yeah.
And also because Lord Chaitanya's mercy, then he's come to destroy this demonic mentality. So, you know, it's like the process that we've been given is so potent and so powerful that, you know, people, even if they're demoniac, they may just take part in a Harinam without even unknowingly, they may love it, you know.
And the verse of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that we should, even if he behaves like a demon, but he continues on, then he's still to be considered sacred. But if the devotee doesn't carry on, if he does something abominable and behaves like a demon, and then after that he doesn't continue on being a devotee, he just carries on being a demon, then should we not consider him saint anymore, but consider that, oh, he is actually a demon, and treat him like that?
Well, we shouldn't really try to judge because they may be going through some purification and...
How long do you give them?
Sorry?
How long do you give them?
You know, if they perform devotional service and they give it up, then at some point they're going to come back to the same point again. eventually to take up devotional service. So it may take a long time, but because they perform devotional service, that's never lost. There's no loss, diminishing what they've done.
So we should, in the intermediate stage, do we still consider them saintly?
Yes, because eventually they will attain lasting peace, like Krishna says.
I've heard it said that anyone who chants the holy name once is to be considered a devotee, even if they do it in jest. And so we can commit offences against anyone who's a devotee. So if we are judging people in a particular way, that could be considered blasphemy. We should be very careful that if anyone who's chanted the holy name or done some unknowing service, so maybe the safe bet is to consider everybody a devotee, and then that way we're not going to commit any offences and we may sort of be a bit purer.
So there's a difference between respecting them in our mind and associating with them. So we can respect all devotees, but not necessarily that we have to associate with them. We don't take close association with those who are averse to Krishna consciousness in some way, So it's not like, it's like the difference between, like we can also see that everyone's equal, but we don't treat everyone equally like a tiger, or a cat. Both are living entities, but one is a cat, one's a tiger. So we don't treat the tiger the same as a cat, otherwise we'll get killed by the tiger. We don't embrace a tiger, we embrace a cat. So in the same way, we can respect all devotees, whether they're fallen away or whether they're practicing in a different way, but it's not necessarily that we associate with them closely. So we have to discriminate.
In that pastime where Lord Chaitanya says, if they just chant the name once, they should be considered a devotee. When the devotees came back from Klinagram the next year, he said one who chants the holy name constantly is to be considered a Vaishnava. And then the next year, they say, what is a Vaishnava? And he says, one who is able to get someone else to chant just by being seen. So Lord Chaitanya kind of upgraded what it was. And then Rupa Goswami says, if someone just chants the name, then you can respect them in the mind, but you don't offer dandavats. If they're initiated and engaged in worship in the deity, then they get dandavats. And then if they're an Uttama Adhikari, then you open up your heart. So we do respect everybody, but we don't consider their opinion of much value if they're Kanishta. And Majjhima, we offer formal respect. So there's a gradation of respect. And if you just go around saying, oh, well, everyone's a devotee, then that actually threatens the sanctity of the holy place, because only certain people are allowed to do certain things according to qualification. And it's not just that you say Hare Krishna once and then that's it, It's the beginning of something.
Actually, I met somebody yesterday, the Indian gentleman, and he said he's got a set of Bhagavatams and he's got so many of our books. And he says, oh, I believe in Krishna Supreme, but my family doesn't, my children, my wife don't really. They think, why not some other personality? And he made this point as well. He says, I said, well, even if you just read one verse of the Bhagavatam, or even one, it says in the Bhagavatam at the end, even half a word, half a line, one word, you will benefit, And he says, yeah, and also it's like in the Ekadashi Vrat, if you perform this, then you're guaranteed, to go. I said, well, it's like we can perform we can read one verse of the Bhagavatam and think, okay, I've done my verse and I'm guaranteed to go back. I don't have to do anything else. So that's not how it works. I said, it's like a spiritual bank balance, and you maybe do 1%, and then you can continue on next life. And 2%, it's not like I've done 1% devotional service and that's me. Now I can just do whatever I want. I'm going back to Godhead because I performed this one Ekadashi. It doesn't work like that. I said, this is like a mentality that, it's not really proper. I said, no, it doesn't work like that. You have to actually do everything, but maybe we can't do everything at one lifetime, you know. But I said there's no loss, no diminishing. We can continue on from 1% and 2% in our next life. So it's the same kind of thing that, what was the thing that you were saying that I was trying to...
You were saying about how a person, if he just chants Hare Krishna, that's not enough, that's just the beginning. And he was saying that he just reads half a line or doesn't that's enough.
Yeah. So it's depending on our mentality. It's not like our attitude as well, how we chant Hare Krishna.
Also, Kartik Chandra was saying that there's 4 levels of auspiciousness. One is Mahapunya, so everyone that says Hare Krishna once, they get a human birth. But then Danya is when they get some books and they keep them. They have the treasure, but they may not actually read them. And then then Swasti Aina is they actually commit. They become sadhakas and they commit. They take initiation. So then they're on the auspicious journey. Up until then, they've not embarked on the journey. They've got the boat and they've got everything ready, but they haven't got in the boat and set sail. And then of those that go on the auspicious journey, only a few of them achieve Shabam, will go back to Godhead that lifetime. So that's a 4 gradations of auspiciousness. So just because you say Hare Krishna or read half a line, that's nice, but now you need to commit and become a sadhaka and then achieve sadhana siddhi.
Yeah. So there's a process, and also I was saying, he was saying, he finds it very difficult to convince his children and his wife that, you know, this is the right thing, Krishna consciousness. And I said, well, they're not going to be convinced because of you saying that, because they're not practicing devotional service, and Krishna doesn't reveal himself to those who aren't practicing devotional service. So it's depending. And I said, Atashi Krishna Namadi. So we can't understand Krishna through our blunt material senses, but when we engage our senses in the service of the Lord, then the Lord reveals himself. So I said, you know, it starts with the tongue, so they have to start chanting Hare Krishna, they have to take Krishna Prasad, then the Lord will reveal himself, then they'll be convinced. And so he said he's going to try to get them to chant, at least to start chanting. And he tells some stories from the Bhagavatam. So the process is there. I said it's like if you were to tell somebody that, you know, you can get this solid golden ghee out of milk, they wouldn't accept it just by looking at the milk and think, how is it possible you can get this solid golden substance from a white substance called milk? You know, it doesn't really, there's no logic in it. But when you go through the process of making that milk into yogurt and then churning the yogurt and getting the butter and then making the butter into ghee, then by following the process you do get ghee. But if you just tell somebody that you can get ghee from this milk, unless they do the process, they're not going to get it. So in the same way, they're not going to understand Krishna unless they go through the process of Krishna consciousness, of bhakti. Krishna's not going to reveal himself. So people have to actually go through the process to accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord. It's not going to just happen just because you tell them. You know. So it's important.
And also there's two sides to the statements in the Shastra. One is to really encourage you, and the other one is to really chasten you, you know. So on the one hand, it seems really easy, and on the other hand, it seems really impossible. So we're kind of navigating on the middle ground, where we accept that it's difficult, but we're also enthusiastic that we can make it, you know. And if you go one extreme or the other, then you become complacent, or you become hesitant. It's niyamagraha. So it's how to keep the balance, you know, so that you understand it's difficult, but you also understand it's possible. Niyamagraha.
Anything else? A few more minutes. So, so the whole message of this pastime is that we really need to make a lot of effort into this process of bhakti and this churning of the ocean, helping to control the mind, helping to bring out all the unwanted things in the heart and get rid of them. because that's what we need to do, you know, and all the treasures will come out, all the good things, all the divine things that we really need in our bhakti, and eventually the amrit, the nectar will, and that's our love for Krishna. Krishna prema is the real nectar that we're all looking for, and we'll eventually get this nectar if we stick to the process of churning this process of bhakti and helping and between, you know, getting the divine and demonic qualities in us to somehow or another continue on the process, because the demonic qualities in us may not want to follow the process, you know, but we try to make sure that we continue this process. We try to get our demonic qualities to subside and surrender to the process, so we don't give it up. Otherwise, we're not going. If we stop the churning, we're not going to get the nectar. So we can't stop the process. Now we started it, we should continue on till the end. Otherwise, we're not really going to get the nectar, what we're looking for. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. ISKCON Guruvindra ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. It was a great difficulty this morning. It took me like half an hour.